Welcome, Heather, for this interesting, beautiful, deep exploration, conversation, whatever it can become. I'm really excited to talk to you and look at all the experiences we had together and look back, at those retreats that you joined for a few years, like in a row, and just see what was the value of experience, what was the personal takeaways, insights, and just let's just see how the conversation will unfold. And of course, the conversation is around tantra, intimacy, relationship between feminine and masculine, and yeah, and also feminine leadership and masculine leadership, how we can collaborate on this. So beforehand, I'd like to ask you, what inspired you to join Tantric Retreat, Tantric Intensive? I think that's what we started with.
Well, thank you so much for creating this space for us to be in this conversation, because I do feel that it's one that I do enjoy sharing some of the experiences and insights that I've had in these workshops, not only within my own life, but to really give some little insights to those on my path, as it feels true to share with others. And I do think that Tantra is uh, a new way of looking at what is truly um, our divine feminine, divine masculine energy, and how we're getting back to the truth of that. So for me personally, I I have this wonderful group of friends here, and the opportunity was put out there for me that they were going to be hosting this tantric workshop. And to be truthful, I didn't know a lot about Tantra other than maybe some of the things that first come to mind when you hear the word. But there was something that felt like my yes. And it felt that it's where my heart wanted to be. And so I followed that call and really came into the first workshop fully just open um, into this unknown experience. And it proved to be exactly where I was meant to be for that first one.
Beautiful. So what was your experience during the first one? Because we had like level 1, level 2. So it's like, I love the group, like your women's group that you have, guys, because you keep experiencing different layers, right, of this work together, and that has so much value. Like it's a journey, right, of your
Yes.
of your group and the relationship that you form, deeper relationship with each other. So what was your experience on during the first yeah, it was like intensive, the first intensive.
Sure. So I think it's important to really take note and pause on the group, because this was all women that I was with in this experience, and it really is a group that are saying yes to being very vulnerable in what they're showing up into. And so just even that first yes, and showing up with such trust and vulnerability in a group where you're really opening up some of these um, deepest layers that we tend to keep quite to ourselves and quite private, right? So the group really, I felt, was a big part of the experience, and I'm sure that we'll kind of talk about some of those more specific things along the way. But what I really felt that I got from this first experience is this overarching is I'll just say an education, because I don't think that we were ever properly educated on what truly is our own sensual energy in a way that's outside of just what was presented to us from movies and culture and music and things of that nature. I mean, at least that was my uh, knowledge base were from these outside sources of what that was supposed to look like, feel like, sound like. And so for me, this first experience was truly connecting to what is the feminine energy and what are the basic definitions of what defines that. So one of the first like really insightful things that I still carry with me today about the feminine is that she is the receiver.
Mm.
And it seems so simple, right? Like even with our anatomy, we are intended to be the receiving from the masculine energy. And it's possible that maybe I'm the only one that kind of almost felt like it was opposite in my life leading up to that, that intended to be the giver of pleasure, that I am intended to understand what is going to give pleasure to my partner, and more of that weight was upon me than the masculine being the giver. I am the receiver. Now, of course, there's still this give and take that naturally occurs as you continue to gain more knowledge in what the Tantra practice is. But I would start there, the very basic almost, I would say,
Mm.
was a big awakening for me.
Yeah, it is very foundational, I would say. Yeah. It's like looking at the roots of who we are as women and men, and even beyond human consciousness, right? How everything is designed in the universe, right? Like these are feminine, masculine principles in the entire universe, because even like as all biological beings, we are built in a certain way that feminine, masculine is there, right? So like understanding the beauty and power of both, and understanding that receiving is not like we were taught is like passive, or is it selfish, or women need to be the givers, in their family, right? The way it was designed, like take care of the household, take kids and husband, and give, and then nobody was even mentioning like, oh, you also need to be a receiver, and you need to learn and master the receiving. So what was your experience in terms of like how did it affect your personal life, not just the relationship with men, but maybe the relationship with yourself, relationship with how you show up in the world, and what you allow yourself, like giving permission to receive, and what do you feel you learned about receiving in terms of applying it in your real life, how it helped you shift the way you live your life and relate overall.
Well, I love that question because it really did create a shift for me. I was unaware of my deep level of overgiving, and it actually unlocked this patterning that it became aware too because of what we're talking about, where women weren't given this foundational understanding. So my model from my mother, who's an incredibly loving and wonderful woman, and so giving and almost unavailable to receive because of these words that were used, that that it's selfish, or it's passive, or all of these maybe notations that the culture has built into us. And so where I've really been able to see myself, I'll start with like in more of my partnerships, is, oh, when I'm open to receiving, this is actually where they are energetically feeling like they're really showing up for me in a way that is natural to them, that feels supportive to them, that inflates their sense of well-being and our connection when I'm openly receiving.
Mm.
How I feel like it has also become so much more a part of my life is instead of like over giving, I still show up as um, my creator, innovative, loving, kind, nurturing self. And by allowing this space to occur, the receiving comes in. It's almost like a natural reciprocation, right? It's like
Mm,
instead of saying, I can give all of these things, which honestly I'm capable of doing, the learning was no, it's not keeping them to myself. It's actually allowing other people to show up and to give, and in a manner to give their gifts. Everybody wants to share their gift. And by over giving, it was unintentionally almost blocking people coming in with giving their gifts to me and in turn giving them back. So there's this reciprocity that starts to occur when you're actually like, oh no, let me pause and let this person show up to be giving in their natural way,
mm,
maybe in a way that I doesn't come as naturally to me. And then
mm.
we both get to expand. It's a really a beautiful way to pause and let someone really come in and show themselves to you more deeply.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. It's like not filling up that space that is meant for them to come in and give, right? So you can just receive, not to clutter that space, because that's what the culture creates, throughout the programming and conditioning, that we're like rushing to fill up that space that is meant to be empty, to say, yes, I'm available to receive that. Yes, this is what I desire to receive, right? Like just
Right.
hold that, right? And
Right.
then and then becomes like infinity symbol, right? It starts to flow. So by women, when women ask, being in the feminine will open up to receive, the masculine comes in and give, and it's all from the heart, genuine exchange. It initiates this cycle of like infinite, flow of giving, receiving, and that's a beautiful dance, right? That we can
It
observe.
is. It is. And like I'll put some realness to it as well. Like I will say that when I really started to step into this as my new way of being, I did feel some of these masculines. I'm going to say, I'm not saying it's just the masculine, but some of these masculines that I've had as a part of my life for so long, maybe like coworker or one of the partners in the business, because they had known me as this overgiver for so long that the change that I was going through in my own self, it was it was a bit challenging for them uh, to experience what it is for me to go through that. And there was this rebalancing and this shifting this between us, even though they couldn't understand what was happening, right? And to
Mm,
an extent, it was only afterward with some hindsight that I had that awareness too. And so I just share that if you, as you start to open yourself up to receiving so that you can give space for other people to show up um, as their highest self too, if there's some stickiness in that transition, it's okay. Like it's
mm,
so natural, right? It's a new navigation for everyone, and but still to stay true to your heart and keep it soft and keep it kind and
mhm. Yeah, definitely.
happen. So
Breaking the old patterns. It is a challenge, and it brings people to this kind of like, whoa, freeze mode, or like, what do I do?
it's like, no, we want old Heather back. And I'm like, sorry. Like she's expanding and we're going to expand together and it's going to feel so good when we get there. It's just a little bit, sometimes I think it can just, there's transition points that can feel hard in the moment. And that's okay.
Mhm,
Let's say it feels uncomfortable.
Mhm. Yeah.
Comfortable means you're going the right way a lot of the
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the like foundational laws, right? And we're discussing personal development, even like you need to get uncomfortable in order to grow. And that brings me to this question that is so important for us to understand of about our differences between feminine and masculine, and then it involves leadership, right? Feminine leadership versus masculine leadership, and the way we are wired to see things, and show up in the world, right? And leading ourselves and, in the family and professional way, in any way. So when we usually, I had a conversation with my client yesterday, and it's like, I'm worrying that she's bringing too much of challenge to grow. It's like, but we, as visionary leaders and as leaders who can see like the whole network of relationships and interconnectedness of all things, will always lead to the next level of growth. And many times the masculine, the way it is now, at least in the world, and I think this is how it's designed in terms of like masculine and singular focus. It's the plan, it's the known strategy, it's the facts, and the different side, of the opposite of the feminine. It can create certain friction and resistance, right? Like, oh, I thought we were happy with this. Why we're changing? It's like, but the woman brings like, we're not changing because we don't like what it is. It's because we want to go to the next level, right? Did you have any experience like that with in a relationship with masculine or in your professional field and personal, where you felt like you open up this new opportunity of experience, the new level of exploration and relating, and this is when the resistance comes in, and it was like almost like, oh no, no.
Yeah. Oh, I could speak to that, sure. So, well, I love that we're coming to this word of vision because the receiving was this foundational understanding that I got from that workshop, and then probably right there next to it is that the feminine is the visionary. And and again, maybe this is just my own perspective, feeling like, oh no, the masculine is the visionary. They create these, huge uh, companies or experience or whatever that may be, and understanding that they're actually more of the doer and the executor, and the feminine is the visionary.
Mm,
And that changed my life, changed my life in my career. It changed my life in how I see myself as a creator,
mm,
and that these big ideas are actually based in something that is energetically just natural for me to experience, and not to devalue that, and
mm,
not to think, oh, seeing things a really big scope is like just being a dreamer. It's like, no, that big scope is what we create, and then we fill in how big things get done,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
So, the one thing as a leader that I have really come to see for myself, and certainly for other women, is that when I look at how the masculine has interacted, I'm going to put it in the space of business here for a moment. it it's starting to become apparent to me that it is quite ego based. What is happening is, or what I'm witnessing is that um, decisions are made more from the ego of what makes them feel like they are the we'll call it the alpha male within a circle of men, or things are done with expectation that if I do this for you, that means I've got this favor that I can call in from you down the line, right?
Mm, mhm,
Where when I see a group of women coming together and being visionaries, I see it more as this collective experience, and more of being able to really see the gifts within other women, and it's without expectation. It's um you're, you're in the moment of creating some bigger picture thing that you're wanting to put into the real world. And you can think to yourself, oh, I know this friend of mine, she's amazing at this thing that we need. We've got to reach out to her because she's going to be that component. I know that I can manage this piece of what needs to be achieved. I'm going to go out and do this and this and this, right? And I know I can look to this other woman. She has this amazing connections in this aspect of what we need. And so I know I'm using vague terms here, but what I see when I'm in collaboration and creation with the feminine is there's actually an excitement about who we're going to bring into this circle to create this thing. And that's what it is. It's a circle. It's not an endpoint.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's and puts into play. It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it because I said so. The
Mhm.
steps, you know, like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what do we do with this? Oh, you'll figure it out. It's like, okay, well, couldn't we do it with so much more flow, so much more like this really good energy going in because people feel really seen for what they're bringing in and how much expansion we get to create when we're creating circles that are expanding and expanding, bringing people in as we grow and need new gifts to expand versus just this one individual or few individuals making decisions for the whole.
Right, right. This is huge, right? The circle rather than the pyramid, right? Like the hierarchy and the authority on the top, and then yeah, that's the whole huge paradigm shift from going like domination and competition to collaboration and connection, right? It's like co-creations, like let's bring if everyone has gifts and everyone has weaknesses, right? It's like how do we calibrate this together, and like it's more like liquid leadership that can flow, right? And there's no like dominant person who makes the final decision. It's being like in this synergy with each other, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's built on another foundation point too. Instead of it being with this like pyramid idea that it's like based upon, this fear of, or that you're being like, monitored over and everything is under the purview of this end point, is that we building circle is like building upon trust, like trusting that people, because they're being seen and utilized for what they're most gifted in, it, when we're just trusted to be our best and give our best and contribute at our best,
Mm,
versus feeling like if I don't give my best, the consequence will be
yeah, punishment.
punishment. I'm doing my best. I'm going to be punished if I don't give a stuff. I love that we're laughing about it because it is kind of silly like when you think
Yeah.
about it, right?
Yeah.
Where I would much rather give someone the trust that they're going to show up at their best and in their integrity and see how their contribution truly is expanding and creating this thing that is that we're coming together to create. If it's a business, if it's of being in service, I think it applies into really so many different aspects in our life.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So beautiful, right? How it flows. And I believe women want to show up if they're being seen, they're being heard, they're being recognized with their gifts, and they're encouraged to actually unpack these huge gifts that they are not even aware completely about. In these environments that you're talking about, this is where we become aware of our own gifts because other people can see something that feels like normal to us. It's like, what's a
Totally.
big deal? Like suddenly somebody's like, wow, this has huge potential. Share more of that. Of course, you want to show up and share because it's like you get inspired you self-actualize in this environment rather than like under pressure kind of performance-based work that people are still, many people are still stuck in those environments. So yeah, it's a huge paradigm shift that is happening right now, like yeah.
And it's and I love that you speak of that, like our gifts, like when we talk about our gifts, I think it is so important to step back to what you had mentioned. Like generally our gifts are very intrinsic to us. So we're not even a clear witness of what these things are because they come so naturally to us. They simply flow from us. Of course they flow from us, right? Because they're meant to. Uh, and when we are witnessed and our gifts are called out to us, that being seen at that level, you will light someone up. You could change their life just by being that witness to them. And I think it's available for us all to say and share in those that are closest to us, or even those that are acquaintances to us in our life, because basically you're just going to share what seems so obvious to you to them.
Mhm.
And so it's just pausing again to share when they're in that moment of their gift and be like, oh my gosh, you are so incredible at this. Like, oh, I love even in our conversation today, like how you just guide this conversation in a way that feels so natural and so available. I don't feel any sense of pressure or feeling nervous or an overwhelm, because you just create a space that makes it feel so gentle and easy for me to speak from the heart.
Mm.
If that you have.
Mm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, yes, it's so beautiful to be in this space and like just open up and invite the energy to come in. So that's another aspect of feminine leadership, that we don't need to know in advance. We allow and we trust the moment to unlock the potential between us, right? To kind of allow the field to be charged with our energy, with our gift, with our connection with each other, and trust. It's almost like we're part of this universe. We plugged in together, and it was like, and it's just happening beyond like any kind of like conscious control. Like we need to bring the agenda on the table and discuss, and get the results. And then we do need that aspect once in a while, but it is not the place where you create, right? This is the more executive things when something specific needs to be done, like in engineering, like something like very specific, which we also do need that. But as we talked about visionary leadership versus like executive leadership, right? So this is the creative space that we have to allow. It's about allowing. That's another quality of the feminine, right?
I agree. And I like how you describe it too, because it gets to be playful. It gets to be um being a creator is just tapping into what's already out there. It's just this like you're putting your antenna out there and connecting into whatever this frequency is, just like a dial on a radio. You're kind of like putting your little antenna in there. These creative things are being brought down and downloaded into you. Like how playful, like there's so much play in it. There's so much pleasure, like going back to
Yeah.
Tantra, when we just are so allowing ourselves to be open to being these creative beings, to sharing that uh, way that we see the world with others. Like, we create beautiful things when we just like really allow ourselves to be open, to have this playful energy. And like you said, when the structure needs to come into play, that's apparent as well. It's not going away.
Mhm.
It's just we create big things when we allow ourselves to be outside of the structure, and we take those things, like here's the vision, right?
Mhm.
Here's the now it's time for that masculine energy to come in and
Mhm.
say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to set it up like this.
Yeah. Yeah, we inspire the masculine to
Yes.
bring things to completion in terms of like physical form. The energy becomes, it's energy matter relationship. They bring
Mhm.
like, go and do it, go and you have an idea of the house, you tell your man, and he goes and he builds the house.
Yes.
And
They
that's
still
very
send to Home
satisfying.
Depot.
And that's true because masculine energy needs this healthy channel of self-actualization, right? Otherwise they do wars and they kill each other because this is just stuck unbalanced sexual masculine energy that doesn't have any other outlets. But the feminine invites the masculine to use all these creative outlets that are serving life basically, and growth, and prosperity and peace and creativity, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
amazing.
coming
Yep.
back to, I wanted to ask a little bit more about the second retreat that we had. And I remember that one of the main focuses that we were holding space for each other, right? So because it was like women's retreat, and we were taking roles of the feminine and masculine, right? Masculine is holding space for the feminine to flow and provide that kind of very solid protected container and structure, so she feels safe, like even like creating the boundaries for her to flow, right? And we worked with the body a lot, but it was also so much about energetics, like how you show up with each other. And I remember that particular practice was very powerful for women. So what I wanted to hear about your experience with that practice, and also maybe share a little bit more about what do you personally need as a woman to feel safe when when the masculine is holding space for you. What conditions do you need? What makes you feel safe, or what makes you feel unsafe?
Oh, sure. So yes, the practice that you speak of was really such a powerful experience for me. And to give it just a bit of context, the movement piece of it was that we were in partners. Again, it was an all women's group, and one of the partners would be representing the feminine and just moving their body in any way that felt uh, natural to them. And then the other partner was kind of just gently had their hands on the partner's body and moving with them, but not forcing them into any type of a movement, but still kind of giving them this sense that there was strength there with them, that there was this container that was surrounding them to let them feel safe to move in this very natural and soft way. And what my personal experience was being able to see the masculine energy in a way I'd never understood before, right? Here I am, I'm trying to just like be in flow with this beautiful feminine energy that's just going every which way that she wants, and not forcing but still having strength there. And it really gave me some pause that our these masculines in our life, the masculine energy in our life, we really have this like mysteriousness to us, which is beautiful. There's this mystique about us. And sometimes it's hard to follow. That's okay. Right. And so what it is to like, I really got a lot of respect for my own personal self in that they are possibly they're doing their best, and sometimes if we're like getting frustrated or or it seems so obvious to us like where we're coming from, it may honestly not be for them. And
Mhm.
so what it is just to step back and to provide a little guidance. So even if it's more in a more intimate setting, using your words, using your body movement to really guide them on what is pleasurable for you and what it is that you would like to receive. Or if we're looking outside of intimate situations in our day-to-day interactions, there's this, it's this, a word we all know, but it's been really in the forefront for me. Just taking a moment to provide some context, some structure, if you will, when you're sharing these like broader, expanded visionary ideas to the masculine. Just giving them a little bit of that container is so helpful for them, because that's where they're coming from. That's their gift, right? That's their
Mm-hmm.
energy, to be the container. So I found that I can be more in, or having I guess more understood communications, when I pause to give it a little bit of context and then take them down this visionary path that we're going toward.
Mm. Right, right.
To really help them, and me
Mm-hmm.
too, because it gives me a second to pause
Mm-hmm.
and to say what it is that I'm really trying to communicate.
Mm.
So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they provide some guidance, because the
right.
feminine can be a little bit chaotic, and we feel and everything makes sense within our own system, right? But it can be so unrelatable to the masculine. It's like, what is going on with her, right? And like, and this idea of giving, leading through receiving is like, okay, she's receiving and she's leading at the same time. It's like, it's kind of almost like a paradox, right? That and it's like, this is something that requires high level of attunement and practice, and it's at all levels. It can be like verbal explanation and conversation to provide, like context, like you say. The practice is a very safe container, because they're guided, they're limited with this particular experience. There are agreements within them, right? So, and it's all about playing and exploring rather than do it perfectly, right? So like, how does it feel to be the masculine that holds space? It can be tricky, and it is about that opening that space that we talked about when things start to flow. It's like, men also have the feminine within, and they connect with the heart, and they can start feeling that flow. And this is when the pleasure comes back to them. That feels so good to them, to be in that nurturing feminine flow, right? Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and providing safety, like safety, basically, like how we both feel safe. It's not just like, because men also can feel extremely unsafe with the feminine. Feminine is so much faster with emotional processing, and with the big picture thing and interconnectedness, yet they get overwhelmed.
Ew, me too. Yeah, our frequency is set on a different dial sometimes. We have to dial it in so that we're both like really,
Yeah.
really hearing each other. So, and I love that you're bringing up that exchange of that heart energy, because that really is the heart of it all, right? Is all of these different aspects coming together so that we can remember what really is our deepest safety, is that when we know we're connecting to each other and through each other from that heart energy, right?
Mhm.
Let's from here.
Yeah.
This can be so distorted, but when we know that we're at this energetic heart level with one another, it's just so embracing. It's with so much honesty and so much vulnerability, and so almost soul bearing, that it that safety is just so naturally created. It's so enveloping. There's such a warmth to it. Like,
Mhm.
you're in that energetic space because there is just this energetic connection of warmth and love and tenderness and belonging. I could stay on the heart for a really long time because it's
Mm,
my favorite place.
beautiful. Yeah, it's like homecoming, right? This is where
Yeah.
we meet. And I like to say that a woman opens man's heart and the man opens her body. When his heart is open, this is when a woman feels safe to open her body, because that's where, like, intimately, now women and men just don't connect. Okay, his heart is not open, so it doesn't feel safe to surrender, and to open up and be in that flow, right?
You're right. And I think that goes back to the safety piece that you had asked of before. It's like, I think that many of us, or if not all of us, have experienced like our heart always knows the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in connection with someone, or even, as you're stepping in partnership or with a partner, if something just feels like it's not quite right, and then there's something for you to explore there, or dig deeper in, or to ask question around, and that either is repaired or it's not. And so when we talk about safety, I think speaking about the heart is the first place to go, is like being in stillness and being in quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And does this feel right for me? Is this situation right? Is this person right? And the heart will definitely be the guide, and your truest guide that you have.
Mm. Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah, that's true. All right, I have one more question
Okay.
to close our conversation, right? So we are planning to do another retreat. So I absolutely love working with your group, and this is like it's almost like a role model for other groups and communities to journey together, like to have work done together over the years, and coming back and seeing what lessons learned, what transformations have happened, supporting each other in between, these dives, deep dives into this beautiful tantric work. So I absolutely love working with your group, and we're planning to do another one in spring, and it will be kind of like level 3. Like, so what would be your new frontier to experience in tantra and with your group in this space of really powerful energetic exploration, embodiment, peace, feminine, masculine, whatever comes to you right now?
Oh, okay. So what comes to me like in this very moment when you ask me that, I think would be almost layering back into this about what it is to feel safe in communicating your needs and what is pleasurable. And I think some women are some, I am going to say some women, and I'm sure this is true for men as well, but I think sometimes maybe we get stuck in not communicating our needs clearly, because we have concern over how that would be received by
Mm,
our partner. And um, what would that experience feel like in how we express what we desire, what we need, what is pleasurable to us from from a, from a space that is loving and with kindness, and keeping that heart connection open. So
mm,
I think that would
beautiful.
be something I would love to explore more deeply for myself, and maybe that would be true for others too.
Hmm. Yeah, that's huge. That's very important. There's so many layers into this, so we can really go dive in and unlock all these aspects of this very foundational condition, right? To feel safe. It's like addresses our roots, right? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Heather. That was incredible conversation. I feel so good about it. It's also pleasurable. Like we're doing it for others to learn and connect and have a taste of the experiences we had together, but also it's for us to enjoy it. So it's both.
It is both. It's very reciprocal. And so
Yeah.
spoken about, and I just want to give you my deep thanks um, for really having a trust in coming to me to share these experiences, and to connect with you, because our conversations between us always are just so wonderful and so inspired. And I always take something away from the connection that we have with one another that really becomes foundational into my own life. So I thank you so very much. And I'm looking forward to the next experience that we'll have together.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. Yeah.
You.
So much gratitude. Yeah.
All right.